I'm ready to start this show.
You really got the Paul Lynde thing going today. I'm just gonna, our listeners love it when you slurp your Diet Coke.
I know, that's why I do it. I do it for attention because I can't beat his Paul Lynde.
The viewers love it just because they like seeing your lips, which is weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving right along.
The Flaming Lips were a band.
They are a band.
Are they? Is it still performing?
You make Mick Jagger look like Bela Lugosi. Bela Lugosi had no lips.
That doesn't really sound... Is this my Twizzler?
You don't even like Twizzlers.
No, but I don't like people taking my things. Because that ex-girlfriend of mine, I didn't like her either.
That never happened.
Twizzle!
Oh, I just got hit by a random fucking Twizzler.
Oh, let me try that again. Twizzle!
You've been no.
Hey, you're wasting my Twizzlers.
Hold on, let me see if I still hate Twizzlers. Yep.
Yep.
Welcome to Bonehead.
And by that, he means, hey, Twizzlers, if you want to sponsor us, we'll make him eat 7 of them on air every episode.
By the way, you missed the whole pre-episode conversation about the Paul Lynde Halloween special that's on Amazon. I can't stop talking like you now.
Oh, please do.
Can we give a shout out to John Stitt?
I was
who
gonna
texted
say-
me in the middle of the day.
I was-
Did you see the Paul Lynde the
Halloween special.
It's
On it.
famous. If you've never seen it,
It's not famous.
no, it's famous because it's the first television appearance of Kiss. That's true.
Yes, that is true.
But as I was telling Joe has not seen it, so this is spoiler.
My
I'm
hair
sorry,
is
Joe.
all jacked up, isn't it?
No, you're good. God, he looks like a boll weevil got loose in the cotton field. Anyway, you don't know.
You might want to add some more glue to that toupee.
Well, I had.
Anyway.
Hold on, I had a Maker's Mark hat that I loved wearing, but I can't wear it anymore. Why can't I wear this hat anymore? Look at it from 20 feet.
Oh, I know.
It looks like a what? It looks like a fucking MAGA hat.
Oh.
So every time I put it on, I walk out, I go, some asshole's going to say, Trump!
But back to Paul Lynde. See, the Paul Lynde Halloween episode special is on Amazon Prime. If you've never seen it, you should watch it because Kiss is in it, and Kiss is Kiss. It's fun to watch perform. But it's even more fun to watch Paul Lynde go back and forth with him because you're just like, you can tell Paul Lynde was like, I don't know, book whoever you want. We'll
Also
do shit.
highly intoxicated.
But
He was a very mean person.
the episode.
And an anti-Semite.
Are you smacking in the remote again?
Probably.
I mean, this is called a microphone.
You gave me 2 Twizzlers.
I didn't give you that and a microphone.
He got 2 turntables.
I gave you 2 Twizzlers and a microphone.
But anyway,
What is that?
Back.
No, I was.
That's where it's at.
Where it's at. What is
Oh.
That's when you got 2 Twizzlers and a microphone.
it? So finish
I
your
don't
story
go
that
off
makes
I
script.
was trying, but he's high.
I swear I don't. And I
Paul
thought about
Lynde.
putting it on, and then I'm like, what if somebody's just flipping through YouTube and they're like, holy cow, he's got a MAGA hat on.
More
It's
views,
Maker's Mark.
dumbass.
Maker's Mark, what?
More views.
And if and I
But
guess
are those the people we want?
do they pay?
Well, you got a point there.
Because I'm a capitalist and anyway.
Listen.
If you've never seen the Paul Lynde
You go
Halloween,
do that shit in Mother Russia.
Let me do this as Paul Lynde. Fox News tells the truth, boys.
I'll take the middle square on Fox News.
but yeah, Paul Lynde is most well known for being Uncle Arthur from Bewitched, even though he only played that role 11 times. 11 times. Only 11 times. But anyway, the Paul Lynde Halloween special, you would think would be a special where you would do skits about Halloween. It stars Margaret Hamilton, reprising the role of the Wicked Witch of the West. Which
Right.
should be great in and of itself. Witchy Poo from Sid and Maury Crofts, whatever the crap that was. And you have all this great talent, and you're doing a Halloween special. So what would you do skits about? Halloween, right? Truck driving skit with Tim Conway.
I was like,
And then that leads into a skit where they're competing for the same wife at a truck stop, and she's played by.
I don't think Paul Lynde would be interested in a wife.
I don't know, but that's what happens in the thing. And then Kiss.
I made it the insurance.
And then Kiss performs Beth, Detroit Rock City, and something else.
Beth, I hear you get caught. Can you do Paul Lynde?
What was that?
I don't know. You do a better Paul Lynde than me.
What were you trying to say? All I heard was, who the.
Beth, I hear you calling. But
Beth, I hear you calling.
The best part about
Obviously,
it,
I know Kiss are better than
I told
you.
Chad this line because the best part about it is Paul Lynde. They're trying to do the small talk like Johnny Carson did with his guest, and so Kiss comes over and he does. Paul Lynde does. I know how you boys got your name, and Kiss Ace from Kiss goes, yeah, how? And Paul Lynde goes, your mother's told you to kiss and make up after you got in a fight, and you took it literally. And then Gene Simmons says, we don't wear makeup, and see they're wearing the makeup. Ha. Ha! Ha! Ha!
Now, what's this episode about?
Oh,
He killed
About 45 minutes long.
Well, you know, because we're talking about Paul Lynde.
Star
Yeah,
Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Trek. All right, we teased
Okay,
it a little
can you
bit.
do Paul Lynde doing Live Long and Prosper?
Live long and prosper, boys.
It's only funny because he ends it with boys. Run to the showers.
Hold on, would you like fries with that, boys?
I'm a girl. Yes.
I'm a pretty
I'm a pretty princess. All right, so today, the reason we're doing Star Trek is because that's popular, and it turns out if we talk about top popular subjects, we get more views.
By the way, the fact that Star Trek is popular is exciting to me because I grew up.
Well, it's not as popular as it was.
Well, but I think in some ways it is. I think it's getting a new audience now. I think you're seeing more 20s and 30s get into it.
You watch it. The supporter of the show, Mary, watches it. Marianne, thanks so much, and that's it. Nobody else has ever seen Star
No,
Trek.
I'm pretty sure other people have.
And Gene Roddenberry didn't bother to watch it.
No, he didn't. He just much like that skit of Matt Groening on The Simpsons, where it's just him counting money and
Yep.
get out of my office.
Yep.
That's no.
Your Matt Groening was almost Paul Lynde. You're Paul Lynde as well. You know that, don't you?
I know. I
They're
don't
all
need to.
Paul
I
Lynde.
can't. I can't. I really wish I could do a good Paul Lynde because I would just stop doing me and do Paul Lynde.
Yeah, you would.
I'm going to be teaching.
Get you some.
If
Let me
I
s-
could teach,
Let me see if I can do a Paul Lynde in one word. Rosebud.
That's a compound word. Is that technically two?
Oh, it's one word. It's
one
just
word.
a compound.
Hold on. Rosebud boys.
By the way, the Rosebud Boys sounds like it could be a great barbershop quartet. Where are the Rosebud Boys? Moon over Parma. We're never going to get the show done.
Bring your love to me tonight.
Chad, you wanted to do a short episode.
We blew that.
Just like Paul Lynde. So,
Not touching that.
Allegedly.
allegedly. No, it's pretty accurate. So, behind us, we have a poster for Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. And I will argue, it's my poster. It's an original one sheet.
Is that something about Leonard Nimoy?
Because
I have ones that's...
Leonard Nimoy is the least of all of them.
Is it signed by... Oh, so you got Ricardo Montalban.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't think.
Fuck
I don't
you.
think he did either.
I have a
His
sign.
pecs are on the back.
The actual ones. Joe dug him
I
up.
dug his ass up and said, let me have them pecs. Anyway, I don't think most people... And when we got to talking about Star Trek, because Star Trek's been on the board, Star Trek and Star Wars, but we're not going to get to that either. But Star Trek, we've talked about several different ways, and actually it has been 2.5 years, gentlemen, before we decided how we wanted to tackle it.
Yeah.
Because we'd bring it up, and it was like, well, we can't do just a series, we'd have to do one series, and can we really just don't want to do that, and don't want to do that, don't want to do movies, and there's a ton of people talking about Star Trek. So, the reason I got this poster down was one is it actually is hanging in my basement, right?
Yep.
It is mine. It is one of my favorite movies. Not one of my favorite Star Trek films. Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of Tarantino's favorite movies, right?
Yeah.
Tarantino loves Star Trek. Lots of people love Star Trek. But most people consider this...
I prefer Buck Rogers.
You would. Most
Twinkie,
people...
twinkie, twinkie.
Really quick. Most people consider this the best Star Trek film, correct?
Yeah.
Some people say they and a couple of folks have said The Voyage Home, but if
Also known by non-diehards as
the one with the whales.
I would
Now-
say it's between this one, or honestly, don't shoot me, but J.J. Abrams' first one was...
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It's a good movie. I agree
Well,
with you.
and
it's got some flaws, but it's a damn good Star Trek movie.
Well, and it
And if
spins
you
off
compare
in
it to the
some
flaws
ways.
of other Star Trek films,
or his sequel.
yeah, oh.
Oh, don't even get me started on that one. Matter of fact, actually, Quentin Tarantino has the best. Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor. He ain't Khan.
He's
That
not
wasn't
Khan.
He's not Khan.
Yeah, I mean, they did an entire comic book to explain the visual difference and what they did to him and stuff like that. That was written by Kurtzman Orsi?
Orsi or whatever his name, or Roberto Orsi and Robert Kurtzman, or whatever his name is. Alex Kurtzman. Sorry. So
No, keep talking. Doing a podcast while you eat. Go
yes,
ahead.
Well, the Wrath of Khan
Oh
is
my
the
God, we
best
should
Star
go
Trek
eat
movie.
biscuits and gravy. That would be just
The
gummed
Wrath
up.
of Khan is the best Star Trek film,
Okay.
bar none. I have read what?
No, go ahead. It is.
I have read Nicholas Meyer's book.
A
I'm
View
a
from
huge
the
fan.
Bridge.
Yeah, View from the Bridge, which also talks about his other films. I have always loved this movie. I'll continue to always love this movie. It's one of my probably top 10 of 20 favorite films of all time. We're not going to talk about this movie. Why?
Because it's been talked about.
By everybody.
Everybody.
What don't you know about it?
I was saying, well, and William Shatner right now is touring the United Kingdom, doing live introductions, live Q&As, and then they show the film. Or he does a Q&A after, something like that. Which, by the way, if you get a chance to go, you should.
Oh, he's not doing live interpretations of the shit my grandfather said? What is
Oh,
it?
shit my dad said.
Shit my dad said.
I
I actually read that book.
that
You see the TV
series,
show?
Oh, that book's funnier than the show.
Yeah.
You know, I think I don't blame William Shatner for that. I blame
Holy cow, let's get on
I
Star
blame
Trek.
William Sasso. That's right, William Sasso. Come fight me. If
His impersonation of Kenny Rogers is spot on.
If he shows up to fight me, Chad, you got to take the hit. I can't take a William Sasso
He
hit.
did a good Curly in an underrated Three Stooges
Have
movie.
you seen his Kenny Rogers?
It's nothing like Kenny Rogers.
I know. That's why it's amazing. Star Trek.
All right, we are going to discuss the underappreciated Star Trek films, correct?
Right.
And we're not going to do all of them,
No.
but which number of the Star Trek films suck?
Usually, if we're doing
Stereotypically,
the original series run, you're talking about the odd
1
number.
through 6.
Odd numbers. Star
Why?
Trek movies suck. I don't
And it's
think-
not true, by the way. I don't think 3
I
sucks
don't-
any way, shape, or form.
I don't think that's, but I think it's because 3 is to resolve 2. It's a thing that gets thrown at it.
Yeah.
And 5 is the budget got cut on. There's a lot of issues with 5. It's actually an idea that Gene Roddenberry had about them meeting gods and then figuring out that they didn't need gods.
Yeah, but 5 got made because Shatner was jealous that Nimoy got to
5 got made because 4 was a huge hit. 4 was the biggest of the 6.
I think even adjusted for price inflation, it still may be the big. If you adjust for price inflation,
It is one of the biggest Star Trek hits of all time.
Right.
Voyage Home. The one with the whales.
Yeah.
Right.
As a matter of fact, that's one of the first films that was shown, American film shown in Russia. I was reading, and they weren't able to fully translate it, and it still got applause.
And a shout out to Mary. She actually told me a story that, and I've heard this before about Nimoy, that have asked him his greatest accomplishment or what he's most proud of was really Star Trek 4.
Not Three Men and a Little Lady?
A Little Baby.
No, Little Lady. He directed the sequel too.
I
didn't
don't think he directed the sequel. Google it.
Okay, well, why do that? Go ahead.
He was too busy directing Gene and that something about Crazy About Love or something.
Oh, I've never seen it.
Yeah,
I
that
know
was
it's
his
terrible.
last movie he directed.
Yeah.
Gene Wilder. But anyway, so let's start with Star Trek 1. And let's defend these movies, okay?
Star Trek 1.
They all have something about them, but now I will admit
I don't have anything to defend on Star Trek 1.
I do too. It is a wonderful concept.
It is, and will be why I can defend.
Really? You don't think it's a good concept? Voyager probe goes to learn everything,
Yeah, it's a good concept.
comes back.
It wasn't handled real.
Well, now let's talk about why did Star Trek, the motionless picture, some people call it, get made?
Because of Star Wars.
Star Wars is the only reason that movie got made.
Yeah.
So a little bit of history you've talked about before. You want to
No,
jump
go ahead.
in anytime. Gene Roddenberry.
I'm going to take
I'm
it.
sorry, you're
fans-
right. It was directed by Emil Ardolino.
Yeah, it wasn't directed by him.
And I'm going to continue on with my Paul Lynde impression by drinking.
And by the way, if you're watching this on YouTube and wondering why is everything like shit, there's candy everywhere. Well, this is
We're recording this on the day that trick-or-treating happened in our area.
and this actually is our Halloween get together that we usually do for several hours, a full day. But somebody decided to move to where?
Well, it wasn't that. I was in town all day, but I have children.
And I have
they
children.
wanted to go trick or treating.
And you have children.
And,
we just watched 3 from Hell with my son, which is probably a bad idea. Because he shouldn't see crappy movies.
Yeah,
That kind of sucks. If you're a Scarefest person, don't let me give you any kind of spoilers, but I'm going to do a review of 3 from Hell, and it won't be positive.
No, I think it's because it follows up. Anyway, but back to Star Trek. Let me go back to Star Trek.
So, back to Star Trek. Roddenberry had promised everybody there was going to be a movie. For a while, there was going to be a series. It was going to be
Star Trek
Phase
Phase 2, and Leonard Nimoy wasn't going to be in it. They had recast him with a Vulcan named Zahn, and the actor that was going to play Zahn is in Star Trek the Motion Picture. You want to know where he is, Chad? Remember when they beamed those people up and there's that transporter failure and what we got back mercifully didn't live long?
Yeah,
that was the actor that was supposed to play.
Nice.
They still gave him a role, but it was, listen, just like we aborted your career, we're going to go ahead and abort your transport.
I want to make a really bad joke, but I'm not going to. So he promised his fans that he had no idea.
No, he used to go on stage and say, "Oh, it's going to come back. It's going to come back. It's because of you fans."
And he one after person. If you're a fan, we've talked about Harlan quite a bit. Harlan Ellison has a good story about being in a boardroom about Star Trek meeting God, yada, yada, yada. We'll get to that one in a little while. But it was never going to happen. But guess what? There was this little movie called
Star Wars.
And it was flipping huge. And what did Paramount have?
The Paramount executive, according to legend, that they were having a meeting going, we have to find something that compete with Star Wars. And somebody said, don't we have something like that? And meaning, don't we have something with Star in the title? And then Gene Roddenberry got a call, and they found him typing on set, working on the new Star Trek.
Yep, that was it. Now, I love the concept. They brought back the cast. There's some issues. Now, it was a huge budget. I don't even know that any of the 5 sequels after that still had the budget, even if you count for inflation, correct?
Yeah. No, it was huge, and what they wanted wasn't just something to meet Star Wars. They also wanted 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is why some of those scenes drag on so long. Plus, at the time, those special effects were cutting edge. So you're sitting there going, oh, and they never had the budget to do the Star Trek, the ship, the Enterprise. Yeah. And the Enterprise is a character in its own right. I always argue that. They never had the budget to do it the way they wanted to do it. And then they did, and the fans wanted to see the ship. And it was, they didn't know if they were going to get sequels. So, hey, let's do it. So it's...
Who would have thought they'd get a sequel out of it? The cast didn't think about sequels.
No. And that's even the thing. I mean, if you listen to the soundtrack, there's an entire song called Clearing the Moorings. And if you've seen the motionless picture, you know what it is. It's where they light the ship from various sides, and the ship very slowly leaves. But, I'll be honest... now that I'm older and I put it within that context, I'm like, you never got to see the Enterprise like that before. This was your moment to see the Enterprise. Leave and actually see it in space dock, because we never saw it docked before.
Mm-hmm.
So putting it within all those contexts. But the reason I'll defend Star Trek: The Motion Picture is it is
something popped over there. I have no idea. Keep talking.
It is
dead air.
Dead air. As a murderer comes in and kills himself.
It's locked. No, actually, I forgot to lock it.
And it's glass. That's what I always say about it. Well, I locked it, but it's break it. Anyway, no, Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
It could be a one with limp wrist.
Star Trek: The Motion Picture is, I argue, the one movie that actually deals with exploration.
Yes.
It is all about them finding something new.
Yes.
And even the ending of it, when Kirk says, what will this species be? I'm not doing the direct line, but what will it be 100 years from now?
What
things like
will it be?
That sounds like Paul Lynde doing William Shatner.
What will it be, boys?
Stop it. Either do Paul Lynde or don't do Paul Lynde.
I now want to do, I do want to have you do Paul Lynde, but do Kirk lines. And I want to, who can we have?
He was my best.
He was,
of all the souls I met,
he was the most human.
Boys.
Now, launch his phallic symbol into space.
It's like a sperm.
Anyway. No, that's terrible.
Oh no, he had my pager.
Why would Paul Lynde have a pager?
Well, why wouldn't he? Why can't Paul Lynde have a pager?
I don't know.
Anyway,
are you getting your point?
No, that's it. I think it is the one film that dealt with exploration, but also dealt with the ramifications of that exploration. The V'ger is, spoiler if you've never seen it, it's Voyager.
Yeah.
And because we sent out this probe to find all this information, it found the information, but it encountered something that thought Voyager itself was the species.
And it improved it.
And sent it back to find its creator.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting because we think, and Voyager expects us to be so much more advanced than we are.
Yeah.
And I think that's a cool kind of premise that you watch Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and you look from watching it in the 1980s as a kid, like, oh man, look how advanced that ship is, and they can teleport. But then when they encounter something that says, no, you can't be the creator because you're not advanced.
You're not advanced. No, I agree with you. I love the concept, and it gets to me every time. But I think it just doesn't move.
No, it's very slow. It really is. I mean, you could tell that story in an hour episode. But I think there's parts of it. I was saying about this the other day. I love the fact that the three mains, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, have separated. Spock is going to go under Colinar and lose all of his emotions.
I thought you said he was going to go under colonoscopy.
I thought he was going to say undercover.
Undercover
Don't
angel.
stop. It's 187 on a motherfucking cop. Don't ask.
Anyway, Colinar and McCoy is drafted.
Undercover?
That's one of my favorite parts of the movie, where McCoy gets drafted, and it
There's
never
a
comes
beard.
up again. But he does the entire thing going on. They use some rare subsection. And in short, Jim, I was drafted. And what's funny about that, if you're a Star Trek fan, what's hilarious to me about that is he ends up being the one that ends up serving the longest.
Yes.
Because in Encounter at Farpoint, spoiler, Admiral McCoy is the one that's there for them to launch the Enterprise D. Because he has that great scene with Brent Spiner. I don't see any points on your boy, but if I didn't know better, I'd swear you were Vulcan.
And let me tell you, that Encounter at Farpoint makes no damn sense.
No, but it's if you Panic on the Bridge, we've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
If you've not seen the documentary, it fully admits Gene Roddenberry was in some ways sadly actually losing his mind. But also he just thought, we'll just recycle the scripts we had for the original series. It worked then, why wouldn't it work now?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I like about the motion picture is it really shows, it's not that after that 5-year mission, which we only got 3 years of, but whatever, they divided.
He's not still bitter.
They divided.
All right, so a little bit of the history about the making of it, because this always fascinates me. It was directed by Robert Wise.
Yeah.
Robert Wise was a legend. Robert Wise was an editor. He was the editor of Citizen Kane. Most people don't even realize that. He directed The Haunting. He directed...
So that's the second best film he worked on. Citizen Kane was the second best.
What was number one?
What was Star Trek: The Motion
Picture? I should have saw that shit coming. I don't know why I didn't see it coming. Robert Wise was a
Orson Welles or William
Shatner's talked about how they didn't argue with him, even though he didn't understand Star Trek, didn't get Star Trek. They didn't try to argue with him because he was fucking wise.
Yeah.
Right? They got him because they couldn't get a ton of other directors they wanted. Even John Carpenter was up for that movie and turned it down. Did you all know that?
No.
Ton of directors.
I would have loved to see John Carpenter's take on
John
it.
Carpenter's Star Trek 2. He was also the one they wanted to direct Fatal Attraction. There's like a ton of movies he should have.
But the thing about I think the
and
thing
he didn't want to do it because they had the original ending. It was like, well, this is just a piece of shit remake of Play Misty for me.
I think the original the thing about the motion picture is if you look at it, the scenes where there's random aliens that are on the Topps trading cards that were made for certain. I mean, the alien makeup's not that good. The Klingon, we do get the new Klingon makeup.
Yeah, you get the new Klingon, and that lasted for a long time.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Until Discovery, really.
Yeah. Well, no, they JJ changed it.
Well, yeah, that's true. And but so I think you see so much of that come together, and I that's the other thing. Star Trek: The Motion Picture, all the original 6 Star Trek films with the original series cast were actually made under TV production, correct? I'm not wrong.
You've told that before.
Yeah. I'm 99% sure because it was still CBS. Now they were distributed through Paramount, but they were all the Gulf Company and blah, blah, blah.
So if you haven't seen it, I still recommend you check it out. But if you're listening to this and you're excited about Star Trek, my assumption is you're going to see every one of them we're talking about. If you haven't, I'm kind of questioning what you're doing.
Well, and the flip side of it is now if you haven't ever seen it before,
never seen it. He said PhD.
Have not ever.
Never going to get it. Never going to get it.
Boys.
Anyway. I now have.
There's 25 of our listeners who are under the age of 40 or 50 going, bleh?
You just named all of our listeners.
I literally, by the way, I want to go out now and I'm going to work really hard, Chad. I'm going to bust my butt. I'm going to work on script after script after script. And I'm going to get a job writing on one of these Star Trek series. But whether it be Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, any of these new ones coming out. And I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to get them to buy one script. And then I'm going to get them to buy another. And then the third time, I'm going to introduce aliens called the Lyndes, and I'm just going to. It's going to be. Listen, there's one guy.
Where's
that can
the
play
showers, boys?
Yeah.
Mine was a bad Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. Good times, noodle salad. Oh my God, that can be who Spock can be.
You can can you do Paul Lynde, Jack Nicholson?
You can't.
You can't do that. You can't handle the truth.
You can't handle the truth, bud.
It's basically you still doing your Paul Lynde doing Jack Nicholson.
Wait till they get a load of me.
Boys.
Actually, I like the way I could actually hear Paul Lynde saying that. Anyway, but yeah, Star Trek: The Motion Picture. You're right. You need to see it.
So the issue was it was a huge hit. They did really well. People what was the problem? Cost too damn much.
Yeah.
They still didn't make a lot of money on it because it cost too much, even though it was a hit. They spent a ton of money on that. I want to send it home one more time. So basically, Harv Bennett, who was a producer, was brought in. They cut the budget by a third. They brought in this newcomer. Who was it?
Oh, the guy that had a view from the bridge.
Nicholas Meyer, who had directed a wonderful little movie that called Time and Time Again.
Yeah, which starred Malcolm McDowell, who would never ever come up again.
Not in Star Trek.
No, no. Sir.
So we got Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Now let's move on to Star Trek III because we're going to talk about the odd ones that people don't like. Star Trek III is always the one where I argue that point because why? Who doesn't like Star Trek III?
Star Trek. I think the issue is.
Now I know why Nicholas Meyer didn't do it. You know why Nicholas Meyer didn't do it?
We just killed him.
He just killed. He did. His whole thing was Spock was going to die. Leonard Nimoy said he'd come back, but he wanted to die. Correct.
Yeah. He wanted to die.
He wanted to die down, and that was it. And the movie, what I've been told by multiple sources and what I've read, as it was being made, they're like, "Oh, this may not suck. Oh, this is looking pretty good. Oh, blah 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 blah." And then we got this.
Yeah.
Because he included everything that everybody wanted to do and a Khan story because they wanted to do a Khan story. That was one character that wanted to come back.
Well, I was saying that's if you go back and
SETI Alpha 6.
This is SETI Alpha 5. Anyway, the thing about that is they went through and they watched a ton of episodes to see what episode they could do a sequel to.
Yeah.
And they picked Spacey because a lot of people said, well, why didn't they pick another one? And you can read the stories about that. But it was Khan. Because the big question is, Kirk even says, I'd love to come back in 100 years and see what civilization has became of this at the end of Spacey. And he was like, well, there's your cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell rock, boys.
Why wasn't Paul Lynde a villain in a Sylvester Stallone action film?
Why wasn't Paul Lynde a villain in the old Batman show?
I don't know.
Adam West. I would have watched.
Oh my God. Twizzlers?
Do a crossover. See, it would have been great because they could have done a crossover with Egghead, and then you would have had a Hollywood Squares.
Can I just, you indirectly...
Did you just give me shit for eating?
Yeah, but I didn't know I was going to be talking. You indirectly...
Oh, you didn't know you were going to be talking during the podcast?
Hold on, let me do it. Simpsons did it, boys. The scout leader.
Oh, that's true.
Ah, there you go. Okay, anyway.
Get him, boys.
As we were saying, the reason Nicholas
right.
Meyer didn't come back was he killed Spock, and the whole next movie was about bringing back Spock, and he didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And Leonard Nimoy wanted to direct.
Yep.
And they let him direct, and they pretty much were over him the whole time. I know that for 4 he got to do what he wanted to do. They
he proved his point.
Proved his point.
Yeah.
But he got to direct, and I actually like Part 3.
I don't have any problems with it.
Part 3 also.
Christopher Lloyd is a good villain.
I was saying, and that's what I was going to say. People forget Christopher Lloyd as Kruge is I mean, he's
Krug.
Krug, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's spelled with an E at the end. And I always.
Isn't it Krug though?
Yeah, it is Krug.
I thought it was Krug. You know, one of us is a Trekkie.
Yeah, well.
It's not me.
Well, I'll be honest. Actually, though, that is probably the film I've seen the least. But I think that sets up so many different things that play out, because you see the Genesis planet, you see the coming of that, so you get that direct continuation of part 2.
Yeah.
But you also have this Klingon who's kind of rogue.
Yeah.
Because he's not in good standing.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, spoiler if you haven't seen it, again, like Joe said, if you're watching an episode about Star Trek, but you see the loss of Kirk's son.
And
which echoes forward.
And the loss, and basically his murder of one of the main characters of all of Star Trek, which was? Who did he murder?
Oh, it's the Enterprise.
The Enterprise. Kirk murders the Enterprise.
And they had
to save them. He destroyed.
And there's that entire
and you never saw that before.
There was. I was about to say, and that's why, jumping forward, Star Trek Generations, the destruction of the Enterprise D didn't have the effect on me. But I'll be honest, as a kid watching it on VHS, when you see that and Kirk's line, "What have I done?
What have I done?" and you're watching it fall from the sky in flames.
And I think that's.
I can't imagine seeing it. Came out in 1984. I can't imagine being a Trekkie and seeing that.
Because I think that's, and I believe his name's Richard Arnold, who was an assistant to Gene Roddenberry. He makes the argument that I make as well, is that there was something about the way the original series treated the Enterprise, that it was a character. I mean, you have Alon of Troyes. I am doing a deep nerve dive, so if you're not a Trekkie, close your eyes and pray. But Alon of Troyes, Kirk gets affected by the tears of Alon, and that means that he's going to be obsessed with her the rest of his life. And at the end of the episode, there's an exchange of, I think we need to find a cure for that. And Kirk is signing forms in the background, and there's just a final line or something like, I think we already have. He's back on his ship. Mm-hmm. And the Enterprise was a character. It was, if something happened to the Enterprise in the original series, like when it's getting attacked, and even the way Kirk talks about it, it's my ship, I have to save her, I have to, I'm responsible for all the crew. But immediately after the crew and the ship. And I don't think that, and that's not to say that we don't care about the Enterprise D, B, C, A, B, C.
The Blu-ray player kicked off.
That we don't care about those ships, but there's something about.
We just don't care about the alphabet.
Yeah. I don't care for it.
Not unless it's got some soup.
Bunch of scribblings is all it is. Anyway, but no, you're right. And I think when you see the Enterprise go down, I can remember.
I was a kid.
I saw it on VHS, and I was like, "The hell just happened?"
I wasn't a huge Star Trek fan of the show. I watched some of the episodes, but I loved the movies as a child. And I remember seeing it for the first time and I wasn't crying or anything, but I remember having a little bit of emotion. Because it's a great shot. Nimoy does a great shot of it's the silhouette of them as kind of and then the woods, and then it's at night on the Genesis planet, and you can just see it slowly falling like a star of fire.
Yeah.
And it's he did. I can't tell him. You got to meet him. I never got to meet him.
He's very nice to my wife too.
Yeah, I can't imagine why. By the way, has anybody ever asked you about your first wife? Don't ask why. Since you guys aren't interested in any of my other projects, just don't ask why. But if it happens, will you come tell me?
I will.
Thank you.
I mean, if she ever gets out of that well, I got hell to pay.
Oh, anyway. Well, he's got that videotape of her going around.
I didn't know she was that young. Anyway,
you
that's
did give her the ring.
If you like it, put a ring on it.
Star Trek 3, it has the death of his son. It has the death of his, basically, the one thing you're absolutely right, he loves. So
he loses everything. I mean, in that movie, there's that, and I think that's
he lost his toupee.
I think that's why it's such a nice follow-up to Khan, because you think, well, he's lost his brother, effectively. He's lost Spock.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see he loses his ship, he loses his son, and you would think that's, it's over, and then he does get Spock back. But there's even that question at the end of the movie, how much of Spock is coming back, because there's the...
He loses his career. We didn't even talk about that. He gives up his career. They all do, but he's the one who's going to get, as they say back to house, penitentiary.
But
he's the one that
it's going to be the rest of them, and he even gives them the option.
He's an admiral.
You can stay behind. You can, this is your last chance. And I think that's why Star Trek 3 is also important. Is, like I said, with 1, you find out that they're all coming back together. I mean, Scotty's still been there and all that stuff, but McCoy had retired. Spock wants to purge himself of his human parts, and that's 1. 2, they're doing, Spock's back, all this stuff. Kirk's promoted to Admiral, though, and isn't going to be on the ship anymore. And then 3, he goes back to get his friend, loses his son, loses his ship, loses his
And we
career.
can talk about McCoy and they gave DeForest Kelly a great role to play with that as a gen changer, because he's batshit nuts, because he has Spock's memories. He has his
Katra.
Katra in his head.
And one of the great things in Star Trek Memory, the book about what Shatner wrote about Star Trek, he even points out that
I forgot it was called Katra, and then I started thinking of the She-Ra villain Katra.
Can you do that again? I only have big breasts.
Rare boys.
Now, can you put on a wig? Either dark hair or red
and also,
hair.
can you call him Mr. Salami? Don't ask, just do it.
Dark hair, red hair. If I had a preference.
Bones' only purpose: destroy She-Ra.
Anyway, no, but he points out in the book that, and they use this a couple times in the movie, that McCoy could always, DeForest Kelly, could always do that raised eyebrow thing just as well as Spock could. And they play with that even in the movie.
Yes, it's fantastic. They give him such a great role to play in that movie. And so every time I would hear...
Serving Hordak.
That's an obscure joke.
Anyway.
Oh, I had like 3 Hordaks. It's a long story there.
I just had 3 horses.
That's why you had to get the penicillin.
Anyway.
I loved Hordak.
I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to go to my... Good morning, honey.
She's not going to know what the fuck you're doing.
Nope.
She don't have a clue. Not one clue who Paul Lynde is.
But no. So I agree. Three plays on so many different levels.
And it's always the one that people... Every time someone say the even ones suck when it comes to the original 6, the odd ones suck when it comes to the original 6. Sorry about that. That's always the one where I go... But 3's a good movie.
Yeah, 3's a good movie.
It's also the one that most the people talk about the least of the original 6.
I agree. I agree. No one ever brings it up.
Because people...
Even the shit on. They don't shit on it, and they don't talk about how good it is.
And maybe it's because they think it's the most vanilla, I guess. That, they're going to get Spock back. Well, you know that now, obviously.
I think you probably...
And it's called The Search for Spock. It's not like they're going to beat down the planet going... Hell, he ain't here, boys. Well,
let's go.
We got another hour and 20 to fill.
He's over here banging another green chick.
Anyway, no, but I think so. You knew that was going to happen.
Can you be green too with that red hair and the breasts?
Rachel Nichols.
Who?
Rachel Nichols. She was the green alien in the J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek film, and she's also Scarlet in the first G.I. Joe film.
Hello, Scarlet.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's people. It's almost again. I don't know if it's because they think it's the most vanilla or whatever, because you know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I mean, you see that. I think the death of Kirk's son is powerful to me because he just got him back.
Dies.
Well, he got him back.
We didn't even know he had one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And he has that line in Wrath of Khan. You show up with the son I didn't even know I had. Who would rather see? I've got a madman out here trying to kill me. My son seems like he would like to help him.
Yeah.
And then he gets that scene at the end of Star Trek 2 where his son says, "I'm proud to be your son," and you think, oh, basically Horatio here is going to finally settle down and have a family. Maybe he can be an admiral.
Horn blowing.
But then it's gone.
One
and like you said.
Gold.
He loses
his ship. He loses that. And Bones loses his Vulcan mind. I don't know. You say vanilla. Yeah, I guess I can see it.
No, and I don't agree with that. But I think that's what.
Is it by no? Is of course now Wrath of Khan has the great death of a character, right?
But it also introduces, very, very important, and it foreshadows whether they meant to or not. Sulu becoming captain, because the Excelsior is introduced as their experimental ship. It's an NX class, and it's going to, there's that great line with Captain Styles saying to Scotty, "I can't wait to break some of the speed records of the," and Scotty,
right.
Go to hell. But I think there's a lot of humor in that. I think there
isn't any humor in Search for Spock.
Well, no, but
there's
Bones, little scenes.
Bones batshit's funny.
Well, there's little scenes though. You get the Sulu scenes. Don't call me Tiny. All that stuff you get, and I think that's one thing that Star Trek 3 does as well is that Nichelle Nichols and George Takei and all of them, they're in Star Trek 1 and 2, but they get some pretty good scenes in 3.
Other people get some actual scenes with some substance. So, the next one, I don't mean to just...
No,
but
think
Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home was the biggest moneymaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a huge hit. It's a lot of fun. That's where they brought back Nicholas Meyer.
Yeah.
Nicholas Meyer says, well, yeah, I didn't want to do 3 because... wasn't interested in bringing about Spock, but once you brought him back, then I can do it. He was fine. He wrote all the stuff in the past. Harv Bennett wrote all the stuff in the future.
Remember where we parked.
A lot of humor, a lot of jokes about rock and roll, which for some odd reason Nicholas Meyer doesn't care for. A lot of different things. A lot of Shakespeare
punk rock.
references.
Yeah,
Punk rock. Wonderful movie. People love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to Star Trek.
no,
Eddie Murphy was going to be in it. Didn't work out.
And I was going to say, and the last thing I'll say about it is, and for many, many people, it completes what is the Star Trek trilogy.
Yes,
2, 3,
absolutely.
4.
2, 3, and 4.
4, yeah.
And they bookend so well.
Yeah.
They do.
They do. And 4 ends there, and
you
Nimoy knocked it out of the park directing it.
And you find out that there is the Enterprise A, that they have recommissioned a ship and made it the Enterprise A, and Kirk has been demoted
to captain.
and he's back in the captaincy, and it's everybody.
And they could have ended the whole thing kit and caboodle there, and they go off into space.
Yeah.
But then
And that's the other thing I do want to say. Every Star Trek movie has that great last line.
Yes.
But even actually, I use the. I say it all the time, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. But I'll walk through it. I'll be walking through a hallway at work, and how's it going? Human adventure is just beginning. And everybody goes, that's true.
I wish it would have just been zip zap zoo, boys. I know that wasn't Poland.
Star Trek Wrath of Khan's got the good one though, right? How do you feel? Young.
Actually, I think Star Trek 6 has the Peter Pan throwback. Second Star
That's right. No, I'm Straight on the Morning, which is another literary reference, which is written by
anyway. But
Nicholas Meyer.
So let's get on to the one that everybody loves to hate.
2, 4, and 6 all have one thing in common. Well, Nicholas Meyer.
Chronometers.
Yes. We can clean those. 5. Now, no one. They all shit on, it's boring. 1's boring. 3, you don't hear that much about. I agree with James. People don't talk about it. But 5. Oh, do they shit on 5? Let's defend it, shall we? Now, what is great about 5, Chad? Because you haven't had a chance to talk.
The comedic timing.
I hate you so much.
I don't... Okay, I'm going to argue with you. Yes, I love a lot of that. That's not what's great about 5.
Oh.
You know what's great about 5?
No.
The relationship between those 3 men.
You're right.
Is the best part.
You're right.
That out of those 6 movies, that's what that movie got right. More than any other 6.
Because it opens up with
that friendship.
It doesn't open up with that, but but
it opens up. They're going through the forest, and you know what the problem with them going through the forest is, don't you?
The tree.
You can't see the forest, Kelly, for the trees.
I was gonna say.
Can't see the forest for the trees.
Bones, quit bending over.
So William Shatner got to direct because he wanted to direct because Nimoy directed it.
Well, and it was also built into the contract. They basically built in their contract. If he gets to do 4, I get to do 5.
Yeah.
That's the way the contract read was equal. Basically, you pay him whatever the salary was. I get paid that too, including benefits, which include.
Mm-hmm. So, people shit on that movie relentlessly.
Shit on 5, and there are parts.
Parts of it suck.
Yeah.
But
the special effects suck.
The budget was cut.
The feather dance scene.
Lucasfilm didn't do the special effect.
Why was the budget cut so badly on that? Considering that the 4th one, 3 years beforehand, the 4th one came out in '86. Actually, why was there 3 years between the 4th one and then '89? That was the summer of '89 when my parents split up. Let's bring that up again.
Oh, here we go again.
It was the summer of '89.
I've heard a couple different things, and you'll hear different people inside Star Trek, and a bunch of these other unauthorized books have said different things. Some of them say things similar. One was that they were thinking about recasting. Because a lot of people know that between Star Trek 5 and Star Trek 6, before they made 6, they almost went back and said, well, we don't want to pay their salaries anymore. We'll do a new cast and just do their Academy days.
Yeah, no, the Star Trek Academy almost got made, right?
That was
Academy
something
years
that
or whatever.
And
Harv Bennett, who had produced them, was going to produce it.
Yep, and so that was the thing. So a lot of people, and again, ILM had done some of the special effects for the other movies. ILM did not do Star Trek V. The production, I mean, there were all these cuts, and I think a large part of it was...
There's a huge pussy behind my head.
There's Chad's right here.
Anyway,
Anyway,
not that big.
Yee, spiders!
Anyway, I think the other side of it is that they came to a realization that I think some was true at the time, but did lasting damage to the franchise. If you stamp Star Trek on it, people will show up. And I think other franchises, and I don't think I have to name names, but I think there is that mentality, and I think we still see that sometimes. Like, there's an 8mm too that has nothing to do with Nick Cage's.
They didn't even have film. They shot that on mini DV.
And so I think
It's
that's
funny
what
'cause
you
it's
had.
8mm.
You had
Fuck you, Chad. I don't need your pity.
We don't have to spend a lot of money on this because it's
You
Star
need a
Trek,
writer.
and people will show up. But I do think, and people want to blame Shatner as director. I don't think that's true.
I don't know. I wouldn't blame him for the quality of the... I don't know that I blame him for his direction as much as he may have been to blame for not fighting probably harder for certain resources that you have to do. But I don't know that he had the power or the ability to do so.
And that's it. If his script said, or if his contract says
What are
you
you
get to
laughing
direct,
about?
Your cat's drinking the milk that's in the...
Well, cats
you get
like milk.
you get to direct. Maybe that
You
meant
mean my son's milk?
Yep.
Who was down here watching 3 from Hell from us because I'm a terrible dad?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he may not drink all that milk. Anyway, but
Thanks, James. Oh, now he's going to eat the chips. Oh, don't eat while you're old. Give me those chips.
I'm motherfucker!
Those are scrumptious.
but no, I agree with you. I think the relationship, and I think
sperm chips.
I think
You could have had some dip, you cheap bastard.
I don't like bean dip.
You didn't say
I mean,
bean
there
dip.
are. I know.
Okay.
Fuck
Well,
you.
can I just get on to the topic of this show that we're
I
doing?
know. Obviously not. You've been jabbering on for
Star
an hour
Trek
and a half.
5, it is the relationships, and there's even lines that are throwbacks for long-term fans.
That ship went down sideways.
It didn't scream or nothing.
But because Kirk has the line near, I lost a brother once, but he came back. And if you're a long-term Star Trek fan in the original series, Kirk's brother dies, Sam Kirk, and his nephews and all that stuff. And so you see that. And,
I hate it when his uncle Kurt died in that lawnmower accident.
the hell you
I
doing?
I need writers.
Anyway, so I
You
mean,
can't do a Paul Lynde.
there's tons of throwbacks to other things in it. I mean, there's tons of mistakes too. The jet boots that Spock uses when they shoot up through the Enterprise. That's one of my favorite things to watch. Of deck 22, 27, 30, 22 again. I'm like, whoa, guys! I mean, it's bad editing.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I agree with you. Now, what I do, my issue with it is those three, that relationship is solid, and that plays throughout the film.
I'm
plays
sorry, the
throughout the
best
film.
scene, the best.
And the one that the rest of the cast, though, I think after seeing them Chekhov gets a big part in Star Trek 2, and you have Nichelle Nichols and all that, and then I think with 5 you do lose a lot of the supporting cast.
No,
they
no,
don't
no,
have
no.
a lot of say.
Because
I know
the
what you're going to do.
best
to
scene
in it.
is Scotty.
Yeah.
And I know this ship like the back of my...
Bam! Ah, that's funny. That's funny humor. Why does that piss you off so much?
I don't know why that pisses him off.
It would be the equivalent of, because Scotty is supposed to be the miracle worker. He's supposed to do all this stuff, and then it's the equivalent of
He woke up in the future to be on that Star Trek: The Next Generation there.
Yeah, and that's so he's a brilliant engineer, and I think that's what gets me about it is it's played for a cheap laugh, and it would be the equivalent.
Gets me every time. I
Gets me
agree with
every
Chad.
time.
It would be the equivalent of if in Citizen Kane, it was right before he
They didn't
died.
make no sequels to that.
Right before he died, He just would have rolled over and said, "By the way, those words were my sled."
That's not the equivalent because that's not funny.
No, actually, I would laugh hilariously if they find tomorrow.
What? It was a second sled?
if they find tomorrow an early cut by Orson Welles.
There's a check underneath it or a key to a safety deposit box. It was under the sled.
I mean, something, but
gold bullion.
That's one of the best Saturday Night Live skits, Dana Carvey, and I love Dana Carvey. I wish Dana Carvey did more stuff, but I love the Dana Carvey skit of the "It's a Wonderful Life," the ending that they found that was supposedly lost. It has him doing George Bailey, and Phil Hartman is the uncle.
Yes,
and it's all this stuff, and it's like, wait a second. She starts at him. Turns out he's not even a cripple, and they all go over and they beat him to death. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Anyway,
Star Trek V is. I'd like to know why it took 3 years. I'd like to know why they cut the budget so much.
Well, and it changed the ending because the ending was supposed to be a giant monster. I mean, he becomes basically the planet is alive, and the rocks start to attack, and that's why it was supposed to be rocky and all of that stuff. And Shatner said when they redid all the. This shows you how long. But Robert Wise got to do a special edition DVD of the motion picture, and they screened it again in theaters and limited theaters.
Did Robert Wise alive for that?
He was very old, but yes, when they started the process, he was alive.
Oh, I didn't know
he
that.
actually
Anyway.
does a commentary on it.
Okay, go ahead.
But then you get through, and they started to do that for all of them. And William Shatner said at the time, he said, if they would let me, he said, now we can do it with computers. He said, just let's put in the rock monster scene. He said, it's not going to fix everything, but it would. But I do think that's it. I even love some of the lines, and because it is true. Like, I watch it, and it's like, oh, please give me your ship to spread my message. That line, what does God need with a starship?
Yep.
Is still, and everybody's like, you mock the movie all you want, but I think that's there is to me a somewhat important commentary on what we follow, what we believe, and if everything is right and just, then it will automatically work. Well, if that's the case, what does God need with a starship? You know what?
Right. Yeah. Right. And it says a lot about blind faith and letting go, and what does that mean? And the dogma of religion. I agree. It has a lot of deeper meaning. Or maybe we're reading too much into it.
Well, and maybe
what did I just drop?
But maybe that's it too. You know. But I think the other side of it is even the casting. So if you're a big Star Trek fan. You may or may not know this, but I'm a huge nerd and I've read way too much behind the scenes. I mean, who was originally supposed to be cast? Lawrence Luckenbill wasn't going to be Spock's brother. They wanted Sean Connery, and it was because the budget got cut. It was a money thing. And actually, allegedly, Lawrence Luckenbill was recommended by Sean Connery's people. Was he represented by? I don't know the answer to that. But they still did vague allusions to it. You know, what's the Vulcan heaven? A Sean Connery. That would have been heaven if they could have got Sean Connery in that role. And you see so much of that. So again, I think it's plagued by a lot of different issues. And this idea of the Enterprise crew meeting God or gods had been thrown around since
back in the 70s.
Yeah. I mean, and then realizing and so I think that's it too. It was you've got an idea that gestated for 20 almost 20 years. And it never got refreshed.
And let's see, 89. That's 2 years into the Next Generation, which was a hit.
Yeah.
Correct from the jump.
Yeah. 80s. Yeah.
You're right. So, but no, the Next Generation was a hit from the jump, right?
It was so much so that Patrick Stewart has said, and I think if you watch Panic on the Bridge, they talk about this. Patrick Stewart didn't unpack his luggage. His agent told him, "Listen, it's never going to be as big as the original
series. You'll
series.
make a little bit of money.
You'll make some TV money. You'll get TV exposure. You can go back to doing Shakespeare." And so Patrick Stewart said, "I didn't unpack my luggage. I was living out of suitcases because, any day now, boys, they're
right. It's going to pull the plug." But
and so he said,
Star Trek V was supposed to be the last one with the cast too.
Yeah, and that's why you get. I mean, and the other thing about it is that I do like is that I think there's some commentary. You start to see the flaws in the Federation in Star Trek V, and what I mean by that, later on we'll get Section 31 and all this stuff that and even J.J. Abrams played with that. That was the only thing that I liked about it. Why did it take so long?
Why did it take so long, Chad? Chad, why did it take so long?
It took so long because
Chad.
Why did it take?
Because of Shatner's script. So basically, there was a lot of after Star Trek IV, there was a lot of going back and forth, from what I can understand. That Shatner was mainly inspired by televangelists who claimed to speak with God, but they really weren't speaking with God. So that's what he wrote the script about.
But he doesn't get any script writing credit on this movie.
Right. I think he just wrote the treatment,
Yeah.
and then so several people were hired to rework it, and then they just couldn't get it right. And then Roddenberry didn't care for the fact that there really was no ending because you can't really define what God is. And then there was an issue with the producer of the show,
Harvey Bennett.
Harvey Bennett. He wanted to be done after Star Trek 4. He said he didn't appreciate the way Nimoy treated him. He wanted to be done with Star Trek because he felt like he wasn't part of the Star Trek family. But then Shatner tried to convince him to come back on, and then there was
He's
an
not
issue.
the producer on 6.
Right, and then Shatner actually got delayed because he had to go shoot something in the Himalayas. He came back, and then there was a writer's strike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so all this led up, and they actually ended up shooting pre-production stuff while the strike was going on because they felt the momentum was ending because it was 3 years later.
No, it's yeah.
So that's why I got rushed into production. So there's your story as to why it took 3 years.
This also, though, is one of the movies. So for diehard Star Trek
Are you
fans,
happy, boys?
For diehard Star Trek fans,
I mean, it's a very existential question. I mean, some days I speak. What is
I mean,
joy?
professionally, I'm in a good place. But I'm just
Well, if you
separated
had
from
The
my
good
family.
place. His good place is the same as the good place in the show.
Well, if you cover it in coconut and chocolate and add an almond,
Oh, wow.
it's an almond joy.
I don't like almond joy.
Neither do
The
I.
almond joys were
Because we don't like
almond
coconut because of
Texture.
texture.
because you've got wuss tongues. Anyway,
This from the man who eats,
does love the wuss.
this from the man who eats peanut shells. I don't know why.
And shrimp tails. Have you seen him
Yeah,
eat
yeah,
shrimp
you do
tails?
eat shrimp tails, don't you?
Weird
listen,
mofo.
Shrimp
listen,
tails, a
those of us-
woo-hoo.
those of us who grew up in poverty, if it was deep fried, and on your plate, you ate it, boys. Anyway,
That's George. That's Jesus. These deep fried dog turds are delicious.
well, if somebody puts them on your plate,
He's got the mush mouth, boys.
mush mouth.
The thing about Star Trek, though,
Mush mouth.
I do think the thing about the Star Trek, the original series,
The only pudding pops out later, swirled.
the movies with the original series cast, I think work very well for another reason, though. They turned it into marketing because a lot of the original series, very few original series toys and stuff that came out during the original series.
Yeah.
When it caught on in syndication, you started to get that stuff, including the helmet with the siren on top. The light
Yeah,
on.
oh God.
Anyway,
I want
But-
one of those.
I do too.
I've seen them at conventions before,
I
and
have
even
too.
then they were like $100, and that was when I first.
I don't
went
want
in
to
the
pay for
90s.
them, but I want one.
So if you got one in your garage and want to send it to me, I'll tell Joe I have one and brag about it. Anyway,
I want to take one, put it on, go to a crime scene. What do we got here,
now,
boys?
now, oh my God, did Paul Lynde ever work with Don Knotts? Now,
I'm
man.
sure he did. It was the 70s. Every has-been actor was doing something.
Oh, don't say
Has
that about
been.
Don Knotts.
Has been, sir. I will. It'd be cold day in hell before I let it never was called Don Knotts. I has been.
I agree with him on that 100%. Actually,
Apple Dumpling Gangs.
Those are a good
Gangs?
movie.
Was that the
There's
sequel?
two.
There was two.
I know, but he
The
said
best, but you don't like the apple dumpling games. My favorite part, I think, is in the second one, is where if you boys come back here, we're gonna kill you, and then you're gonna do what? We're gonna hang you, but we don't have any rope. So next time you
You
come
know
back into town, bring your own rope.
You know what?
And later on, Tim Conway goes, "Do we have any rope? Because they told us if we come back, we got to bring our own rope."
You know what? You're right. The Apple Dumpling Game did show that there was a better Western actor than Clint Eastwood and Bill Bixby. You're right. I'm sorry.
Huh. Anyway, I think the Star Trek original series cast movies are important for another reason,
Yes.
and that was marketing. Star Trek the Motion Picture, Topps did the cards. I have that complete set. No, don't get jealous.
There's a whole line of trim outside that door lined up just for you for that. Oh, Mr. Thomas. Oh, I'm sorry.
Doctor.
Dr. Thomas.
Yeah.
Dr. Thomas. Oh, you have all the top Star Trek motionless
Including-
pictures. You want to
including-
see these titties?
including, sir, the original stickers. Now, a lot of kids peeled them stickers off, but I got them.
What are you giving
Sure.
me that look for? You
Star
know
Trek-
the whole line out there. Well, let me show you these titties to see those
Star
Topps
Trek,
cards.
Star Trek the Motion Picture. By the way, when I
I
tagged
got a
this,
foul fill from Garbage Pail Series 1.
when I tagged this,
Suck it!
You've got 15 otters.
when I tag this online and Star
Google
Trek,
otters.
and when I have people that also like Star Trek join it, By the way, did you start the recording?
Yeah. No, I started the timer, so I don't know how long.
Oh, okay. I was about to
so
say.
hopefully you wrap this up quick.
No, what I was getting to though is
Especially with all that line of trim.
you get
You'll
all
get
the,
a disease and take it home to your second wife.
you'll get all the
Ask him about his first wife.
We
kids.
got another movie to watch, boys.
you get the marketing, and that was something Star Trek. I mean, they had
That's
toys
where the
and
real
stuff
money
like that.
where the movie's made.
But where did Star Wars make a ton of money for George Lucas?
Marketing. Or no, the toys.
No, it wasn't it at all. I don't have anything funny to say. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
all toys.
It's toys.
I know.
Merchandising.
And Star Trek hadn't had that, and so I think that's the thing that they did take from Star Wars as well. Star Wars helped bring them back, but then you had the top scores and all that for the motion picture. By Star Trek V, Kraft bought into Star Trek. Why? Because what does Spock do? What are you doing, Spock? I am preparing. He pulls out the little device that pops out a marshmallow.
Marshmallow.
Yes.
He says it very.
I'm preparing to toast a
The
marshmallow.
Forrest says it like 14 syllables. A marshmallow.
But what's funny about that is, I don't know if y'all know this, Kraft, if you send in so many proofs of purchases, you got that device. I've seen it at conventions. I've almost bought it, and then I always stop myself going, what the hell am I going to do with this?
You want to
But
roast a marshmallow?
Make some s'mores, bitch.
It is, and I think that's really important, is that,
Don't you ever think of anybody
and
else
if
other
you
than
watch,
yourself?
if you watch what the rights did, they went from, the rights changed for Star Trek all the time. Star Wars stayed with Kenner until Kenner wasn't a thing anymore. But I think that's the other part about it is the by the time we get to the Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and all that stuff, the marketing machine's in place.
Yeah.
But I think we also have to look at the movies as getting that marketing machine started, because outside
I don't
of
know
that,
how this has to do with Star Trek 5.
well, no, I'm saying I was wrapping this up. I think you need to look at the original series
all
picture.
that trim out there excited about his Topps cards.
I'll be honest now. I don't mean to brag. I don't mean to brag, Chad.
And you don't
But
do it well.
I also have the Star Trek Masterpiece collection, which is the paintings, and that's got the original series, The Next Generation, plus 1991, Chad, 1991, 25th anniversary, mind you. They did a card set by Impel. Now there were,
Which is what the ladies want him to do.
You also got an amazing poster of Trekking with Scotty. You're
That's
welcome.
true. But there's a maroon border set. Now that's the Next Generation set,
Yeah.
Chad. The blue border set is the original series. And Series 1, Series 2, and I've got a complete
And
set of
our
those.
audience is officially dozing
Are
while
those
sleeping.
in your basement?
Yeah, I've got a lot
Dozing while sleeping. I meant to say
Do you
dozing
still have
while
stuff
driving.
at your parents'?
This I may have some of my props and stuff. And one of the coolest thing I got back when eBay was a new thing, kids. They used to sell stuff randomly, and I actually have behind the scenes film sales where you can see stuff like the director's hand doing the board from the original series. And I've got those are in storage somewhere. But I think that's it. I say all of that to say we think of Star Trek now, and Star Trek waned for a while. Enterprise was canceled.
It never guards.
Oh my god.
Well, Garth of Izar. Hold on, let me make this work. Garth of Izar, that's a character from the original series. See, Joe, he was a tyrant. And Kirk thought that this actor was really him, but he wasn't sure. So he was a Shakespearean actor. Anyway, so...
I'm going to kick your ass full of Harvey Mudd. Would you just get on Harry Mudd?
Hold up, Harry Mudd. By the way, if you watched Discovery that I loaned to you, you'd see Rainn Wilson play him. Anyway.
I would love to watch it. Will you take my child?
No, you... Okay, so hold on. Let's go back in time.
Where I
Rewind
watched 3
episode.
from Hell.
You'll watch 3 from Hell with him. But Star Trek, which is known for being largely family entertainment. Now, there is one scene in Star Trek Discovery which upsets some people. But nothing near 3 from Hell. So you can't let the boys see Star Trek. I can't do Paul Lynde.
Why are you laying in his lap?
Because you told me to sit closer for the camera. Did you just do this so you could frame us?
Well, I was, yes, absolutely trying to
Baby
frame-
up, Scotty had sexual overtones.
He's going to show me
Boys.
his captain log.
Boys.
He's going to show me his captain's log. Anyway,
Oh, that was funnier.
but no. So I think
Let's wrap it up.
The original series movies, The odd ones, if you say they suck, I'd say go back and watch them. Are some of them slow?
Live Long and Prosper kind of looks like the Shocker Boys.
I think we can defend the other two. Star Trek V is not a great movie. I don't know that it's a good movie, but I think
if you never saw any of the other Star Treks, it is a waste on you. I will fully say.
I agree, but if you're a Star Trek fan, I don't understand how you can't enjoy the camaraderie that movie demonstrates.
Also, time out. David Warner.
Oh yeah,
my favorite.
I said David Warner earlier.
I wasn't listening to you.
We even had a whole comment about how he was in 5 and 6. What in the hell are you doing on this show?
Actually, I want to bring up one last thing for 5.
You're like a child who wanders into the room.
I want to bring up one last thing for 5. 5 also gave us some of our best history of those characters too.
Yes.
Because you find out what, McCoy having to watch his own father die. And letting him die earlier, they could have kept him alive on machines effectively. And then him having to say they found the cure 2 weeks later.
It was 6 months. Yeah.
6 months. I mean, it's and all of that stuff. So and then Spock, having to face the term that he's not. And again, spoiler, that comes up in Discovery in a unique way, where Sarek makes a choice that affects really 2 people.
Yeah.
Pretty major ways. And it kind of, for me, jumped back to that scene of he's so human, and how Sarek's concerned that his son is too human. So I think that's the other part, is it humanizes these characters. I think by this time in the Star Trek mythos, Captain Kirk's a god. And so when he has that entire scene, and I always think about what would have Sybok shown him. What was it? Is it losing the Enterprise?
Yes.
Is it his son? Is it screwing up with Carol Marcus? Is it... And I love that scene, and it's the one thing I always think about in Star Trek V. I need my pain.
I need my pain. It makes me who I am. Yeah.
And I think about that sometimes. There's tons of science fiction stories out there that say, what happened? What would utopia look like? Utopia may not be good for us. Maybe even the Matrix has that line: "We originally created paradise. It turns out you people don't want it."
Yeah.
And so I think about that scene. I think that's a good scene. And again, you can crap on the movie, I guess, if you want. But I think there's scenes in it that pull up those science fiction...
No, I agree. There's some good ideas there. Overall, it's an uneven, flawed film. Who plays Carol Marcus in Star Trek Into Darkness?
Eve
something.
Alice Eve?
Alice Eve. Hello, nurse.
Yep.
You know who's better looking than her? Chris Pine. Hello, nurse. I think I got a shot with Zachary Quinto.
You're so wrong.
My wife has said
so
before.
Wrong.
Why am I wrong?
Peter Weller.
Oh my God. Hello, nice.
No, my wife has looked at me before and she said, I love you and I think you're attractive, but...
And so does all those vixens who want to see your Topps trading cards.
But no, my wife says, but Zoe's held on. I'm like, I can't beat her. I mean, honestly, I know I'm a guy, and my wife, evidently, I've heard, is into guys. I don't know. But
many men.
But she, every time,
have been into her.
Even in Guardians of the Galaxy, she says, there's just something about Zoe Saldana. And I'm like, I can't, I mean, sure.
And there was that. So we will do another episode where we talk about the Trek films of the next generation. Generations would be the one, but I think we want to...
Let's do... I think that kicks off the next generation because it takes care of some other issues. And so we'll start there and then we'll do the next generation films.
But I'm really glad that we waited to do this and we kept putting it off because I think this is the best way to do it, would be to defend the odd films.
Yeah. Well, and I think,
because everyone already knows that the good ones are good.
Yeah. 2, 4, and 6. And I think those are good for non-Star Trek. I mean...
6 is a good mystery.
It is a good mystery.
6 is a good mystery.
And I love 6 also because it plays with any audience. I can show it to my parents see it and Chekhov's line, guess who's coming to
dinner, laugh their ass off.
My parents, when I first saw it, they were like, Sidney Poitier.
Mm-hmm.
But I watch it now with my son, and who's 8 now, he turned 8. And, he's like, even he gets it. The Klingons are bad guys, but maybe they're not bad. Maybe they're...
The undiscovered country isn't a place, it's peace.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's undiscovered.
Yeah.
And we can have peace then, or we can have more, but we've got to play around that concept. So no, I think that, and I think Star Trek 6, which ended the original series, the full original series cast, I think it ends, with Sulu's, the Excelsior's going this way, the Enterprise, the second star of the riding straight on until morning. But Scotty, I think, has a line that's a big ship, and Captain Kirk has a line not as big as her captain. And I think that I like the way that ends because it does set up the idea that, there's a tomorrow. And of course, production-wise, Star Trek The Next Generation was on. You knew where this went. You knew these characters. But I think that... we can defend 2, 4, and 6, but we don't have to. And I would say 1, 3, and 5 hold on their own, but Star Trek the Motion Picture is slow. Star Trek 3, you know how it's going to be resolved by the title alone, effectively. And Star Trek 5, everything was cheaper, everything was done quicker.
And it never had an ending.
But, and I think you can do a movie without an ending.
And it suffered from a weak villain.
But actually, and the one part...
Well, it doesn't really have a villain.
Right.
No, it's...
Cybok's not... I guess he's a villain, but he's not really
Not really, because, he saves the day in the end, really.
He's the one that saves the day.
Mm-hmm. He's... And I do love the,
And this is still melodrama. And the only way melodrama works is with a strong villain.
Right.
And I think that's it. I think that's what the original series movies after the first one did lose. There's not... Star Trek 5 actually gets the closest to going back to that idea of exploration and discovery. Because 2's about dealing with Khan, and that's not exploration and discovery.
No.
3's we're going back to find Spock.
Mm-hmm.
4 is, a little bit, but they're exploring what we know.
They're trying to, yes.
You're dealing with the probe, and we don't understand that, but we're not going to go find out what the probe is.
Yeah.
They did a novel that was a bestseller that was a follow-up to that called Star Trek Probe.
It's right over there on my shelf.
But the movie itself
I've never read it.
Their unexplored country is our home.
Yeah.
It's 1986. So I would argue 1 and 5 are the ones that get closest to what Star Trek the original series was about. That idea of, to boldly go
where no man
where no one
has gone before.
So, I know we're going to wrap up. The last thing I will say, Star Trek 6, I think, does have the best line that puts that in perspective. Is when Chekhov says something about how about some basic humanity, and the Klingon comes back. Even your language is racist. And I can remember being Star Trek 6 came out when.
Came out in 1991, yeah.
25th anniversary.
Or 92, yeah.
Yeah, 25th, I think it was 91. And I can remember I would have been 11 years old going, oh, man, if we ever do meet aliens, we're host.
Yeah.
Because we are. It's our language is inherently racist in that, if you were encountering. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's where I'll close out my ideas about Star Trek 1 through 6 is that I think that franchise grew as the time went on. Because I think when Star Trek the Motion Picture came out, where no man has gone before, you see it on a plaque in the background, you see it. And I think when 6 ends with where no one has gone before, I think it addresses some of those issues.
Chad?
So I'll end this episode
by being Paul Lynde.
Paul Lynde doing the best quote from Star Trek. Live long and use the Force, Luke. Chewie, 3 to beam up.
Why didn't I give Chewie a medal? Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in to Bonehead. We hope you've enjoyed our original Star Trek series movie episode.
Star Trek movies.
Star Trek original series.
We do one about Discovery, but you haven't seen it.
Nope, ain't watched it yet. Oh, well, one of us here has watched every episode of Star Trek except for Discovery.
I have.
Everything?
Yeah. That was a few years ago. Times have changed. My kids are older.
Did you finish Voyager?
Yeah.
I know you have. But we're the two who aren't Trekkies.
I've seen everything Trek. Except for the second season of Discovery and the short treks.
I got you short treks in my pants.
That short trek about Saru, Doug Jones, and his origins and why he ended up there.
All right.
Then you find out about...
We gotta wrap this up, boys.
Then you find out about the alien species that pursued them and why they actually pursued them and how they weren't really... Anyway, Joe...
Thank you so much for tuning in to Star Trek. We'll get your next Star Trek episode.
Now, what you need to understand is...
I'm walking away.
Heisenberg uncertainty compensators are how the thing...
I watch Heisenberg when it's on Breaking Bad.
Roll credit, boys!
The disease, the transporter...
Toodles, it's been Bonehead.